Hi, folks. Welcome, welcome. As you are joining, get settled, get something to drink. It's summer. Get hydrated. Take a couple deep breaths. We're going to get started here in just a moment. Really happy to see everybody's faces. Well, not faces, names. Jeez Louise. I was optimistic that I would see everyone's faces. Webinars are not, in fact, meetings.
Nah, you get to see our faces though.
Well, that's boring.
Hope everyone's summer's going well. Hope wherever you are, it's cool.
It's cool in Colorado. This is like the one time of year that I get to like sort of lord it all over everybody that I live at 9,000 feet of elevation because it's like no humidity. It's very cool. Believe me, I'm going to want to come to your campus in South Carolina in February when I'm covered under 500 inches of snow, but summer is when I can be superior about my weather.
It is pushing 90 and humid here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Gross.
Eh, it's part of the deal. It's what you get with when you have all four seasons, you have all four seasons.
Better or worse.
Worse. And I don't think we're going anywhere. So we're here. I don't want to say we're stuck, but we're here.
That's right. That's right. Well, folks, I'm going to give it about one more minute for folks to come in. If you haven't gotten that glass of water, do so. I'm going to take a drink to model good behavior. I did recently learn that this is actually glow in the dark. And I didn't know that. It's an Nalgene, it's glow in the dark. Didn't know that. And it scared me half to death when I woke up in the middle of the night and it was in my bedroom and I was like, what is that?
What vessel is that, Emily?
It's just like a classic Nalgene. This is my sort of outdoor rec bottle.
I I I think I'm still on Yeti. I think we're
That's
like
fine.
15 vessels beyond Yeti.
That's fine. It's fine to have a vessel preference.
My daughter's on a Walla.
Oh yeah, we got that. We got a while going at my house last week too.
We've been through lots of them.
Yeah, that's true. It's a thing. All
Flavor.
right. Well, I'm seeing numbers level off, so we are going to get started. Hello, everybody. Really happy that you're here. A couple housekeeping things. This is summer school. This is not like the school year. So we're going to be very lenient and say that you should use the chat to introduce yourself, say hi, side chat with your colleagues, peers at other institutions, but get that chat going. We will not mind if the chat becomes an active place where you're sort of side chatting, commenting, talking to each other. Love for you all to introduce yourselves to each other. Let us know where you're from, and hopefully you all can connect with each other as familiar faces. So let's use the chat for sort of side chatter. Let's use the Q&A for any questions that you have for me and for Chris. So Q&A is what I'll keep a close eye on to make sure that we're answering all of your questions because despite the webinar format, we will want this to be really interactive. So today we're really here to sort of set the stage on talking about that there's this whole training curriculum available for you. Echo Delta has produced this really excellent asynchronous training for you and your admissions teams. We wanted to give you a little taste today about this curriculum for this on-demand training. And today you'll get a sneak peek to talking about sort of how to lead recruitment conversations and ask really great questions. I think one of the big challenges we find in our line of work is just how, as admissions counselors, we can lead those conversations, get to know students in ways that feel sort of good and genuine, and make sure that what we are getting them signed up for and enrolling in our college feels like a really good fit for them. I would love for Chris, my co-presenter, to introduce himself, and we will then sort of talk agenda and be off to the races. Chris, you want to introduce yourself to the humans?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Lewis. I have a little over 25 years at this point of both sales experience and admissions experience. I've spent time at the for-profit level, which is a whole other bag of worms, and also at the four-year college level. I also spent many years in direct sales, the mortgage industry, the insurance industry, to name a couple. So I bring a combination of a myriad background that I think has really well prepared me to coach people on exactly how we recruit students. And I want to make sure we understand that sales is not a dirty word. There are certain techniques and certain, not even techniques, things that you do And that's what we're really going to talk about today, specifically as it relates to questions you should be asking, the what, why, and how of that, to always be guiding people through the funnel. So let's get started with that.
That's awesome. Chris, can I introduce myself before you get off of that? I know you're going. I like it. Everybody, humans, hello. My name is Emily Smith. I've been a longtime consultant only in higher ed. So Chris is going to bring you experience from outside of our fine world. I sadly have none. I've been 22 years in the enrollment consulting space, and I've worked with at least 500 colleges on everything from student search to implementing CRM, online applications, tons of operational consulting, training admissions counselor, of course, along the way. And yeah, really happy to meet everybody. Okay, now agenda. Great. So, Chris, if you want to move forward to our agenda, the things that we will talk about today are first, introductions. We've done that. Check. Done. That's awesome. We're going to talk about probing questions. We're going to talk about what those are, how you use them. We're going to talk about Chris's mental model of of the MAP principles. We're going to talk about why and when and how you might ask probing questions to lead conversations. We're going to talk about what questions and why you might ask them. And we're going to talk about what you do with the information once you learn it from students. And then we'll wrap up with some key takeaways. I think the overlying principles here are that, unfortunately for all of you out there who are leading recruitment conversations, students and families are looking at you to lead these conversations and lead them through these conversations. And asking really great questions is a really important part of that. And I'll remind you that this skill in asking questions is really applicable in all areas of our work, whether it's like a future outside of enrollment or just the ways that we deal with our own teams to get curious and ask good questions, I think is a great principle as you tune up some career skills. So let's get started and talk a little bit about kind of these different types of questions and how we might ask them.
Yep. Thank you, Emily. So, uh, so really the backbone and basis of much of what we consult about and talk to people, talk to admissions counselors about was born out of this phrase. So many years ago, I was walking down the hall at the for-profit college where I worked, and I was didn't have a family at the time that I was working with. But somebody approached me and said, "Hey, can you tell me how to get to the cafeteria?" And I pointed to them, said, "Hey, walk down the hallway to the ramp, walk up the ramp 3 times, you'll run into the cafeteria." They were appreciative, said thank you, moved on. Right about that time, my boss happened to be walking by, and she pulled me aside and she said, "Hey, Chris, can I talk to you real quick?" I said, "Absolutely." And she said, "What you're reading in front of you. Don't tell someone how to get there, take them there." Now, she meant that in a literal sense, which was, hey, don't just show them the way and point the direction and tell them to go up the ramp 3 times and walk into the cafeteria, but rather stop what you're doing and actually physically take them there. It really comes down to a higher level of customer service. There's an opportunity to get to know them. There's an opportunity to show them that at our school, that particular school, that we care about them and we will not only tell them how to get there, but take them there. As the years went on in admissions, what this became for me was the backbone of everything I do. So I believe strongly that as admissions counselors, admissions personnel, wherever you call yourselves, I think it is our both responsibility, our duty, and really an honor to actually guide people through the admissions process. More importantly, to help them figure out what find out what they're looking for in a school and match that up with what you offer. And that's really where probing questions come in. So again, I want you to really start to internalize this, and hopefully it becomes not only your mantra, but how you act every day. In tune with that, I think that all interactions with prospective students should be, number one, meaningful. I don't believe in having meaningless interactions. And by what I mean is, part of what I do in my consulting with numerous colleges is I will ask people, or I will listen to people make phone calls. And very frequently, I will hear phone calls when we first start doing this where they kind of go, "Hey, John, this is Chris calling from University of Pittsburgh. Hey, just calling to check in. Just calling to see if you have any questions." To me, that's not a real meaningful conversation. I want to have really meaningful conversations.
Also, wait, can I break in? Because that drives me crazy. The calling to check in or calling to see if you like to see if you have any questions. You're bringing no value and in fact putting so much work on the other person to like actually direct the conversation. That's your job to direct. Please continue.
Absolutely. Um, I also want you to be authentic. I tell people all the time, I'm a hugely outgoing person. You can put me in a room and I can talk to anybody, 8 to 80 and everything in between, and be perfectly comfortable. But I want you to be your authentic self. That's hugely important. People can pick up on that. They read that. If you're being disingenuous or not being authentic, they'll know that, and it'll be a real turnoff. The next one is purposeful. I want all your interactions should be purposeful. Again, this kind of goes back and ties in with meaningful as well, and goes back to that phone call where you're just kind of saying, "Hey, how you doing? Do you have any questions?" Everything I say, everything I do has a purpose. It has a meaning. If I'm calling about financial aid, for instance, I want to find out what they know about financial aid, which, hey, I'm foreshadowing. That's going to be a really important question you're going to ask. I want to know how they're planning on paying for school. I want to know what they know about the FAFSA. And I also want to schedule a time for them to complete the FAFSA. I want to get a timeline and a guideline for how they're going to navigate the process. Now, you'll notice that the meaningful, authentic, and purposeful spell the word map. That's what I think we're doing. I think we are mapping out and we are starting from one point, which you're going to find out for me, the starting point, the jumping off point is actually that very first conversation you have. Hopefully it's in person. I'd love for them to be as in person as often as possible. And you'll hear me repeat that. But we're taking them from that first contact all the way through to, I always say, not just them becoming a student. My goal is not to just recruit students. My goal is to recruit students that graduate. I've gotten no greater joy in my career than having someone come up to me at graduation and say, "Hey, thank you, Chris, for being a small part of my journey." And again, that's a mindset. It's not just about numbers. That's why the kind of sales thing is a misnomer. This is sales training, but it's very genuine and authentic. And I want you to be thinking about getting them past the finish line, not just the starting line of starting school. So what are probing questions? Um, First of all, probing questions are open-ended questions. Hopefully, we know the difference between open-ended and closed-ended questions. Closed-ended questions are yes/no questions. So if I'm going to ask, um, I could ask Emily a closed-ended question. What did you have for lunch today, Emily? Emily, what did you have for lunch?
Cereal, because it's mountain time. I haven't had lunch yet. Cereal.
Oh, that's right. You are Mountain Time. Yeah, there you go. Cereal. Whereas if I was going to ask maybe an open-ended question, I might say, and you don't have to answer Emily, but hey, Emily, how do you feel about the value of eating breakfast? That's an
Oh
open-ended
man, Chris, it
question.
really gets my day started and really gets me going in the morning. And in fact, the days that I don't eat breakfast, I really feel like I miss it because then I just have a crappy day and I'm tired and my blood sugar is low. Now you know a whole lot more about me than just that I ate cereal.
There you go. So they're open-ended questions, and they are meant and designed to elicit a specific response. Again, meaningful, authentic, purposeful. These probing questions, we want to know certain things. Um, Number three, they are a hugely important part of the process. In my opinion, the probing questions phase of the recruitment process, which is going to happen, as we'll find out in numerous places, but I think it has to happen and should happen very early on in the process, as early as possible. In a perfect world, I hope it happens when you actually, the first time you talk to them. If that happens to be when they're visiting campus, fantastic. I think that's a perfect part. If you're not sitting down and talking to your families one on one if they're on campus, I think you're missing a huge opportunity to sit down and ask them probing questions, get to know them, build relationship, form a bond. So again, to me, it's not just an important part of the process. I would argue it is maybe the most important part of the admissions process. Because again, what we're trying to do is not just, I think in admissions over the past so many years, I think we've become order takers. I think we've just become, hey, somebody applies to the school, you see if they've sent transcripts in, you make sure maybe they have a question, maybe they don't, and you hope they show up on day one. I want us to become order getters. I want us to really make a concerted effort to get to know our people, find out specifically what is going to make them successful. What are they looking for in a school? And as we'll find out in a few minutes, that's on purpose that we're trying to find that out. And the information that we gather in this probing process, we want it to be useful now, and it's also useful throughout the entire process. I always say all information is good information. It may not be what you want to hear. It may not make you happy. It may be the information might be, hey, I don't want to attend your school. I want to attend another school. That is still useful information to us. So the answers to these probing questions are hugely useful now. And when I mean now, it's when you're asking the questions, whether that is by phone, whether it's by Zoom. But again, we got to ask them, but it's useful from the beginning all the way through the admissions process, because if we have the answers to those questions, if we've gotten the answers to those questions, then when situations arise down the road in the form typically of objections, and that's a whole other, that was actually last year's sales summer school. I hope you attended that. But it comes useful then, because you can say, hey, John, remember you said these were the things that were most important to you. Has that changed? But again, I don't want to get into handling objections.
Well, actually, though, I think that's an important mark, though, to say that, like, if you're feeling objections from a student downstream of getting to know a student, objections are a downstream symptom of upstream problems. It's like the way I diagnose problems with like yield, right? Like yield should not be sort of like, oh my gosh, surprise, yield is bad. Like that is a downstream symptom of upstream problems. And if you're handling objections later, you can actually diagnose poor question asking earlier in the relationship as a key contributing factor to why you're seeing those objections later. Because if you're not handling this stuff at the time of building a relationship and asking those questions, something has gone wrong, and you're going to see objections show up later. Of course, things change over time, and as you get to know a student, and you might get to a cleaner perspective on what might feel important for that student over the course of the relationship. But I think if you are feeling a lot of objections later in relationships, it's likely because this question asking skill is not as tuned up as it really needs to be, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're asking good probing questions, you can actually take care and head off objections before they even become objections.
Yeah.
Or
And
once,
yep.
once you get really good at it, and this will make more sense when we get into the actual questions and why you ask them. But as you're asking these questions, you can take little mental notes and say, oh, okay, this is something that's going to come up down the road. I'm going to be really prepared for this. So again, it's useful now and throughout the entire process. It truly does set you up for success all the way through the admissions process.
Absolutely. There was a question that I just answered on like, are we going to talk about what types of questions to really ask? And while there is no script, we're definitely going to talk about like the types of probing questions. They're actually a framework and sort of a way to walk through them. And also the types of questions you might ask. We'll definitely get into that. I suspect you all are going to have lots more questions there.
Yeah, and again, I'm actually going to give you the specific questions you should be asking, and we'll even break down what information you get and why it's important. So why do we ask probing questions? Um, Again, I think to some degree, admissions has become very transactional in that it's somebody submits an application and hopefully they show up for the first day of school. I want it to be relational. And by relational, I mean exactly what this sticky note says. I want us to invest in relationships, not just transactions. So asking probing questions is your first chance to get to know them. Again, it's really meant to discover whether you are a good fit for them. And I want to be very full disclosure. I'd like to think that I never recruited a student who coming to my institution was absolutely not the best fit for them. And it was in their best interest to do so. And I knew that because I took the time to ask probing questions. I took the time to get to know them. It's the first step in forming relationship. And I think if we all think very quickly to other relationships we have in our lives, whether it's our spouses or friends that we've had for 30 years, or even, you know, people we run into maybe at the gym or wherever. The better relationship we have, the more open we'll be with somebody, the more honest we'll be, the more likely we are to share that there's a problem. If we have no relationship, we're just going to go cold. We're not going to do that. So first of all, it's about getting to know them. It's also about finding out what's important. These open-ended questions are designed to figure out what is most important to them, what is going to make them successful. It is more than just having a pretty campus or having a fantastic football team. That's great. That's, to me, that's fluff, and it's perfectly fine. But what is really important? Are they going to survive better with 20 people in a class or 800 people in a class? Do they want to be in the middle of a big city, or do they want to have a more rural setting? Find out what's important to them and what's going to set them up for success. It is information exploration. And here's the coolest thing about this. It's information exploration for us because we're asking the questions, but believe it or not, it's information exploration for them. Well, if you really think about it, maybe I know for a long time, I never considered this, but how much does 17 and 18-year-olds really know? How much do they know what they're looking for? So oftentimes when I would ask the question, what are you looking for in a college? That's going to be one of the important questions you should be asking. Oftentimes people would say, well, Chris, I'm not really sure what I'm looking for. Okay, let's get into that. And that would lead to some closed-ended questions, but a lot more open-ended questions. And it allowed them, they saw me, hey, as you start to become a trusted advisor to them. Let me say that again. You start to become a trusted advisor. So it's information exploration. It also creates excitement. We want them to be super excited about the process. We want them to be super excited about the potential to attend our college or university. So asking why we ask probing questions is to create excitement. It's like anything else that we are looking at or we're considering. So that's the why we ask probing questions. When to ask them. The first meeting or the first call. Again, hugely important. It sets up the rest of the process. Also, these key times. Again, purposeful questioning. Purposeful questioning times include financial aid, when it's time to consider housing, and certainly at orientation. Lastly, when objections come up. And let me repeat what I said earlier. And I think, say what you said earlier, Emily, about basically it's what you do now, or I'm sorry.
Oh, that like like if you see objections show up a lot in the sort of later stages of getting a student to commit, something has gone wrong earlier
Yes.
in the question asking and the relationship building. Like that, I always would diagnose something downstream from like an upstream problem kind of deal.
Yeah. So again, but when objections do come up, for instance, if someone says, hey, Chris, I think I'm considering another school. Oh, okay. Closed-ended question. What school are you considering? Open-ended probing question. This is what you told me was important to you. What does that school, what excites you about that school? What do they have? Do you think it's going to set you up for success? And again, I know the answers because I've gathered them already. Think about that. So I'm going to turn it over to Emily, and she's going to talk about types of probing questions.
Yeah. So this is actually a skill we learn in like client success. So in my sort of big sort of corporate training, I'm a client success manager, and the things that I'm responsible for are like relationship building, making sure people feel value in their relationship with like my company, things like that. But there's actually this question framework about the different types of probing questions you can answer. And I'll actually even start at the very top to talk about like when you do sort of small talk with somebody, like you might sit down and talk about like the weather, or you might talk about a current event. You can actually even replace some of your small talk at the very, very top in a way that gets people talking a little bit differently. So if like the boring question is like, how's it going? Or like, yeah, what do you think about this crazy weather we're having? Like you might say something like, oh, you have a little pep in your step. What'd you have for breakfast this morning? Or like, gosh, you look happy. What were you just doing? Or something that you might say and deploy to students could be something like, gosh, you look nervous. Like I'm nervous too. Here's what feels weird about meeting new people for me. What feels weird about meeting new people to you? And this is all like fact finding to understand the current student's current situation. Context questions should set the stage, and they're really orienting for the rest of these things because these types of questions are actually sequential. So when we talk about context, problem, impact, and value questions, they actually all build on each other. And you can't ask better questions downstream unless you have a really good context to understand like the stage that you're setting. So some other context questions that you might ask are like, what major are you interested in exploring? Or what's one activity that you think you'll join in college? Or like, how are you balancing coursework, extracurriculars, and a part-time job right now? And all of these questions will reveal some interest so that then later you can map those to relevant stuff, whether it's problems that, you're solving, programs that you have, or the ways in which you support students. So those context questions, again, A, should kind of replace small talk a little bit, and also will bring the context and sort of more information for you to build these next set of questions, which are the problem, impact, and value questions, which build after that. So once you understand the context, and that's maybe, a few 3 or 4 questions, you might get into problem questions. And the problem questions will highlight what problems the student or the family or the parents might have that your solution can solve. Your solution includes everything from like higher education, like what problems does higher education solve? But ideally, more specifically, what are the problems that your specific institution solve? So these probe for like difficulties, dissatisfactions, and problems that the student might have that you can actually offer a solution to. So some example of problem questions are things like, gosh, are you concerned about finding a school where you'll feel a strong sense of belonging? Like, yes, that's a leading question, but like, what's going to happen if the student says no? They just say like, oh no, that's not important to me. Okay, cool. You've learned that that's not an important factor that that student is making a decision on. Most students won't say no to that. A lot of students will say like, yeah, actually, I actually am. It establishes you as the candid, trusted advisor that you'd be asking that question, and also opens up the door for the student to actually like highlight concerns around social fit or worries that they have. Another problem question you might ask are like things like, do you feel overwhelmed when you're trying to compare different scholarships or financial aid options? This opens up a conversation about finances. So again, the problem questions start with like, are you, do you might even like bait a little bit or lead a little bit with like worry or concern that they may or may not have. Totally fine that you're just guessing. Ideally, you know a little bit more from the context and you're a little more informed to ask those problem questions. But really, like, worst they can say is like, no, I'm not worried about fitting in. Like, everybody loves me, no problem. Like, oh, okay, then you actually know. The impact questions get a little more specific. The impact questions are really around like, what might the concrete impact be of these problems on the students? So this is like time, this is money, things like that. And the impact questions like would explore sort of the consequences to the problems that they've identified. So if your question is like if your problem question identifies like okay the student might be really indexing on or worried about not fitting in, what's the impact of not fitting in college? Like what does that actually mean if you were to go to a college that you did not fit in? So a question leading from that might be like if you don't find a community where you feel accepted, how might that affect your ability and motivation to actually graduate on time? that links the problem on belonging to an actual retention risk. Another question might be like if your campus really excels with sort of like service and advising and really getting to know the full student and treating the full student, you might say like, gosh, like you're balancing a lot, you're juggling a lot. Like how might limited access to advisors or support services impact your ability to stay on track for your major? Like that would highlight some service gaps that would be painful if not solved. So again, those impact questions are sort of the concrete impacts of problems unsolved, right? Because you've identified the context, you've gotten into some problems. Impact is like, what happens if we do nothing? What happens if you don't solve that problem? Then finally, the value questions highlight some potential benefits that the students might see from your solution. So you're basically getting the student here to articulate the benefits of solving this problem. Ideally, this is in their words and they are speaking here. So you could say something like, gosh, if you joined, the honors program or the honors colleges we've been discussing, or if you joined the lacrosse team that seems really important to you and got immediately connected to some people who share your interest, like how would that shape the first semester? What would that feel like? That again sort of leads that belonging and confidence string all the way down because again, you're tying the sort of problems to the impact if you don't solve it to the value if you do solve it. Financial aid one might be like, if I could show you a financial aid pathway that would make the tuition predictable for all 4 years, like would that peace of mind feel relieving to you as a family? And then you have to let them voice that relief. So that's how I think about the sort of through line between context questions, problem questions, impact and value questions that get you to, again, like a really clear finish line to say like, yeah, and this solution is or isn't an appropriate fit.
And ultimately, really what Emily's talking about, and she did a fantastic job of it, is we want them to paint a picture. We are helping them paint a picture of what does it look like for me as a student at ABC College. And again, keep in mind, this is informational exploration for us and for them. They probably haven't thought about a lot of this stuff. So we are helping them paint a picture. And the most important point that Emily's making is it has to be their idea. Our ultimate goal is for them to say, hey, I think ABC school is a really great fit for me. I'm not a believer in, there's an old sales terms, telling is not selling. I can tell you all day how great that I am or how great my school is, but ultimately what I want is by me finding out what drives you, motivates you, interests you, and matching that up with what we offer, hopefully the end result of that is you saying, hey, wow, Chris, based upon everything you're saying, it sounds like ABC School is a really fantastic fit for me. And once they say that, once they verbalize that, now keep in mind if they say, honestly, Chris, I'm not really blown away. I'm not sure if this is the best fit for me. That's okay too. There have been plenty of times where I've actually referred students to other schools. Not a problem at all. It's hugely important for me to make sure that what my school is the best fit. Now, once they verbalize it's the best fit, then my whole attitude, my driving force from that moment on is, well, then why not ABC College? Once you say we're a great fit for you, great. Here's how we navigate the process. Here's what we need to do next.
Yeah, sort of shifting modes, right? From like asking questions to then like leading then the next set of things, which is like the transactional pieces of like, okay, here's how we get you kind of signed up.
Yeah. And
I
this is
think,
slide, but I want to say this, and feel free to take notes on this. And obviously this will be recorded, but I think every single interaction beyond like kind of even during the probing phase, but every interaction you should always be thinking about number one, what information am I giving? Number two, what information am I getting? Number three, what are the what are the next steps in the process? And it could be the next steps in the process might be them coming to campus for a tour. It might be them starting school tomorrow. It could only be a myriad of things. But what information am I giving? What information am I getting? What are the next steps in the process? Getting commitment from them on taking those next steps of the process. So, hey, John, it's now time to complete the FAFSA. Once we find out what they know, then it's, hey, when do you think you'll be able to complete the FAFSA by? And number 5 is, when's the next time we're going to talk and why? Every interaction ends with the next steps, commitment. And if they're not committing to the next steps, then we know there's some type of objection, there's something going on. And we start our probing again, or we ask different probing questions. But those are the 5 steps that I think we need to take in every interaction. So, what questions to ask and why do we ask them? Number 1, what makes you want to major in blank? Let's just throw out a what makes you want to major? What makes you want to become an attorney? So, what's their motivation for that? What kind of support? Oh, hey, Chris, I want to become an attorney. I've got 5 attorneys in my family. Or I've always, great. I know there's a support system there. I know they have an idea of what being an attorney is all about because they've got a family full of attorneys. And I know there's motivation there. When I worked in admissions, we used to have a program that was along the lines of like crime scene investigation. And when I asked this question and someone said, "Oh, I love CSI. I think that show's amazing," that let me know, hey, I need to do more probing because it's not like it is on TV. There is no Gil Grissom. We're not solving murders in an hour. It's much different than that. So I got to dig deeper and find out what their motivation is. What kind of support do they have? But that's why we ask that question. What sports and activities do you participate in? Hugely key question. I want to know, A, follow up. My son plays football. So if I'm an admissions coordinator and I'm recruiting Patrick Lewis, I know that in the fall, he's going to be largely unreachable during the week because I know when football season is, I know practices after school, I know games are Friday nights or sometimes Saturdays. So that gives me an idea. Now, out of season, I know I'm going to have a better chance of getting a hold of him. Now, also, not only sports, but activities. Hey, I love ultimate frisbee. Oh, we actually have a fantastic ultimate frisbee club here on campus. Or if you're like Patrick Lewis, hey, I love video games. Oh, we actually have a really successful esports team here on campus. We're painting a picture. We're letting them know about exciting things that our campus offers. We're making matches between what they're looking for. Oh, wow, I'd love to be on an esports team. Fantastic. We offer that here at ABC College. You see where we're going with this? We're gathering all this hugely useful information. What do you know about financial aid? What do you know about financial aid, and how are you planning on paying for college? Those 2 questions are going to let me know everything I want to know about that person's financial aid. A, it's going to let me know what their knowledge base is. It might be, hey, Chris, John's our third, he's our third one to go through college. We know more than we'd like to know. We know we're not getting any grant money. We've accepted that. John's had a 529 plan since the first week he was born. We know we're going to have to take out some loans. We know the deal. Now, just in that few sentences, I found out a lot about them. I found out they know what they're doing. I know there's a 529 plan. If you don't know what that is, look it up. You need to know that. But I know what their knowledge base is. Now, let's go the other way. Hey, Chris, I'm totally freaked out about financial aid. I have no idea. I'm scared to death to pay for school. I know nothing about it. I keep hearing about all these people leaving school with $100,000 in debt, and we're just freaked out. I'm not even sure we should even be here right now. That lets me know they're on the other end of the spectrum. That lets me know I've got to really take some time to work with them, educate them on financial aid. I'm not a financial aid officer, but I need to know enough to be, in a kind of a tongue in cheek, know enough to be dangerous. I need to be able to explain what grants and loans and scholarships are. If I know they've not prepared at all for financial aid, they don't have money for school, none of that, I'm guiding them to where they can get scholarship information. I'm pushing that, I'm educating them on that. It also lets me know what financial aid objections there might be down the road. Hey, Chris, we know nothing about financial aid. We've got nothing saved. I have no idea how we're going to do this. That lets me know right off, right from the jump. Why do I want to find that out 6 months or 8 months or 10 months down the road? I want to know that day one if I can. So I can start talking to them about scholarships, maybe sending them the most popular scholarship websites and educating them. Hey, mom and dad aren't going to be able to help you out, John, or they're going to be able to help you out in a limited capacity. Now, it also might come out, Chris, John's here because John wants to be here. Dad and I didn't go to school. We don't believe in college. Oh, now we found out about support. Now we know there's a financial aid objection. See how these questions uncover all these potential things, gives us all this valuable information. What other schools are you considering? Why do I not want to know who my competition is? And if you're smart, you know who your competition is. If you're even smarter, you've done some research on your competition. You know what they really do well, maybe what they don't do as well on. You know what their best programs are. And if the program that you recruit for is the same as the college down the street's best program, I hope you know that program in and out. We're not ever trashing our competition, but we better understand our competition. And so we want to know, maybe the competition or the other schools they're looking at are 4 states away. But maybe we also find out that, and this goes to the next question, how does your family or significant other feel about you going to college? Maybe they're only looking at ABC College 3 states away because my colleagues make fun of me for this, because Pookie Bear is going there, their boyfriend or girlfriend. Pookie Bear is a tough objection to overcome, folks, but we can. But it lets us, maybe our competition is also, what are schools you consider? Why do you like? So follow-up question to what other schools you considering? Oh, I'm considering University of Pittsburgh. I've said that because I'm a graduate. Oh, what do you like about the University of Pittsburgh? Because we've already, this question's a little bit down from other questions. It's down the page a little bit. So now I'm ready to, now I know, hopefully I already know what they're looking for and what's going to make them successful. Oh, hey, does University of Pittsburgh, do they have small classes there? Do you know if you have access to your teachers? Oh, I don't know. I haven't visited. I just know they have a pretty good football team, and I've heard Pittsburgh's a fantastic place to live. So great question to ask. How does your family significant other feel about you going to college? Again, what kind of support do they have? Are mom and dad going to be there every step of the way? Or are mom and dad going to be an issue? Are they going to be, who's the decision maker? Hey, Chris, grandma and grandpa, they love me. They've actually been saving for my college education. Oh, I know Papa and grandma, they're decision makers as well, along with the student. I want to make sure if Pap's there, I'm shaking Pap's hand. I'm using good eye contact. I am maybe asking him a couple questions. I am forming a relationship with Pap. So how does your family sit together feel about you going to college? Is there going to be a roadblock? Is the roadblock that Pap and grandma are writing the check for the education But Pap and Grandma, you're at ABC College, and both Pap and Grandma and three cousins went to the University of Pittsburgh. They're all Pitt graduates. So I've just uncovered that might be a roadblock to them becoming a student at ABC College because everyone else in their family went to someplace else, and that's where they want them to go. They're a family legacy there. Hugely important question.
I will offer like a tiny trapdoor out of this because we're giving a lot of information about the types of questions to ask. And I will say, like, there will be times in a conversation that you will either get lost or you will get sort of dragged into like, okay, where am I? Like, where am I going next? And there's a really easy parachute to adopt here. So, Chris, I want to go back to this, like,
Sure.
the question about activities. When you were like, what activities are you into? Kid might say video games, and you might use a technique that's called mirroring, which just means that you literally repeat the last thing they said. So it goes like this. Um, what activities are you interested in? Video games. Video games? And then you stop talking. Stopping talking after you answer a question or ask a question is really hard. Watch how hard this is. Next time, this afternoon, you're going to see it this afternoon. Ask a question, stop talking. Let the other person fill the space. But in this aspect of mirroring, what activities are you interested in? Video games? Video games? Video games? Kid might say like, "Oh yeah, like I really want to play esports." Or the kid might say like, "Oh, I really value relax time, chill time with my friends." Either way, you're learning more. You don't have to answer every question with like, "Oh yeah, we have video games or really good Wi-Fi for video games." You can ask more about the thing. So you can use that technique called mirroring just to say, sort of get you to the next place in the conversation. It's a really powerful full tool to learn more.
Perfect. Great. Thanks for sharing. So how to connect during probing? Hail the conversation. Make it about them. I know there's a lot of what we call helicopter parents out there. They can make the process a little bit difficult. You might even move your chair and look at the student, tailor the conversation and make it about them. Also, people love to talk about the things that they are passionate about. If they're passionate about video games, give them the floor for a few minutes. Maybe ask them what their favorite video game is. Or maybe, as Emily said, and you say, oh, video games, they might just automatically open up and say, oh, Call of Duty, I love it. Oh, and you might have played, oh, I play Call of Duty as well. Da, 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 da. Oh, now we go to number 2, establishing common ground. Almost everybody I meet with, there's something that we have in common. Could be a game, it could be a food, it could be a restaurant, it could be a band. Establishing common ground is important. Build trust. We always want to build trust in a very authentic way and communicate on their level. And what I mean by that, twofold. A, I think you need to, I said this earlier, I think it's really important you're comfortable and confident in having conversations with anyone from 8 to 80. Communicate on their level also means that don't make 50 calls and leave 48 voicemails if you're calling at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But one of the most important questions that I ask in the first meeting is, what's the best day and time to get a hold of you, and how would you like to be contacted? So communicate on their level means if they text, you text. If mom prefers email because she can't answer the phone at work, you email. Communicate on their level. I think of the hundreds of people that I've consulted with and coached, and the thousands of families I've met with, this might be one of the more important questions, because I think one of the toughest tasks we face at admissions is getting a hold of folks. Would you agree, Emily?
Yeah, I think so. I think that is like a significant amount of friction.
Yeah. So what to do with the information that you get? Put good notes in your CRM. I always would tell people when I was during my probing, hey, I'm going to take a few notes while you're talking. It's super important for me to understand all what your wants and needs are. Do you mind if I take some notes? I could count maybe on one hand of 10,000 families I've met with. Maybe 5 or 6 people said, no, Chris, I don't want you to take notes. I'm offended by that. Okay, no problem. No big deal. Just right after I would go and take some.
Gosh, you're nice. I would have like used mirroring. I would have said offended by that.
Offended by rank what's important. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what's most important to them. Small classes, really good food on campus, off-campus activities, whatever it is. And the value of this is, again, we said earlier that probing, you're going to use this information now, but you're also going to use it through the rest of the process. Review that prior to follow-up. So if I'm calling them, I'm going to review, because I have maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of students that are under my responsibility. So I'm going to take a look at their notes real quick and see what's most important, or what I flagged as maybe even what's going to be an objection. Hey, I'm making my financial aid call. I know mom, when I talked, mom wasn't working. They don't have anything safe for college. And hey, I know I'm going to have to really spend a little extra time here. So review that information. Remind them during objections. Again, remind them of what they said, not what I think, not what I say, what they said. They've said it. They've said what's important to them. Remind them of that. And dig deeper when necessary. Emily's mirroring technique is another way of digging deeper, as I like to say, peeling back the onion. You know, hey, I'm thinking about what schools are you interested in? Oh, I'm interested in University of Pittsburgh. What do you like about Pitt? That's peeling back the onion. Have you visited? Peeling back the onion. Who do you know that attends school there? All important questions. So, key takeaways from today, and then we'll get to some questions. Build relationships and rapport and find out what's important to them. Again, we are making a match between what's important to them and what our school does well or what we offer. Asking probing questions is information exploration for you and for them. Incredibly important. Again, how many 17, 18-year-olds really know what they want? Help them figure it out. Become a trusted advisor. And finally, proper probing prepares you for the wow, I don't know why I put that in there. I can't say it 3 times fast. Proper probing prepares you for the process. Again, what you do up front, what you do in the beginning will really prepare you for the entire rest of the process and greatly increases your chances of being successful in recruiting the right students, not just in recruiting students, but recruit students that are truly your school is the best option for them, and they verbalize that to you. So you can get connected. You can sign up. Echo Delta's Insights for updates. Also, we do various research reports and research papers. We have podcasts. I've done podcasts before. So really interesting information. I do think you should be a product. You should be constantly challenging yourself to continue to become a product knowledge expert. Keep mastering your craft, getting better and better. I've been doing this for over 25 years. Emily's been in the game for 22 years. I promise you that each and every day we are trying to get just a little bit better. And we should be, we need to be, we have to be, even though we are the experts, so to speak, you can never learn enough and things are always changing. So certainly get connected.
That's right. And I will say also, Chris and I are both on LinkedIn, and you're welcome to connect with us as individuals as well. Chris is Christopher Lewis, and I'm Emily Smith. I know we both have like generic names. However, if you're connected to anyone in admissions or enrollment, I bet we'll have mutuals together. So do please send us a connection request on LinkedIn at Christopher Lewis or Emily Smith. We'd be happy to connect with you and make sure that you feel connected to this Echo Delta content as it comes out.
Yeah. And one last thing before we get to answering questions, and it says we have 6 minutes left, but if we go over, that's perfectly fine. I'm happy to answer questions. Happy to do it. So the last thing I wanted to bring up is, and Emily mentioned this in the beginning, that this is just a small portion and a small part of Echo Delta's new on-demand admission sales training. Emily and I flew down to Florida along with our colleague Jeff Calais, and we actually videotaped 8 or 9 different modules. We used to do this training in person in a one-day training, but what this offers folks is the opportunity to actually kind of move at your own pace You can maybe do 1 or 2 modules today, do a module in a couple days from now. So that is an option for folks who are interested in that. We do also have an ongoing coaching feature, which you could potentially be doing, or you could do ongoing coaching with me. That's kind of a jump off of the on-demand sales training. And finally, we do still have an on-site component that's much more hands-on, where we actually do a lot of role playing and kind of do practical application of all the things like probing questions, which we introduce all those things and more in the on-demand admissions training. So, Emily, what questions do we have?
We don't have any open questions. We've been answering them along the way, but team, happy to hear from you in the Q&A if you have any questions for us. And we can hang here as folks drop off, though I will say if you don't have any questions, we are finished with the sort of recorded portion of the program. We'll hang here for another couple minutes. Please do type in your questions in the Q&A if you have them. Otherwise, folks, be well, be hydrated, have a great summer. Good luck at the cycle.
Someone's got a question. Fire away.
Yeah.
Our heads are full of knowledge. Ask.
Great. I think folks are dropping off, Chris. I think folks are getting to their next meeting, maybe quick bio break before your next meeting. So we'll call it here, folks. But thanks very much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.